You don't belong here." The words weren't spoken yet, but they hung in the air, thick and suffocating. They were in the way the hostess by the door glanced at her simple t-shirt and jeans. A flicker of judgment before her smile turned to ice. They were in the silent, heavy pause that greeted her as she stepped onto the immaculate marble floor of La Prétense, one of the city's most notoriously exclusive restaurants. And before we witness how this single moment shatters the entire foundation of this place, tell me, where are you joining this story from? Comment your city below right now. And if you know the burning shame of being judged as less than, of being made to feel invisible, then you understand what's at stake here. Make sure you're subscribed and hit that like button so you don't miss what happens next. Now let's meet our players. The woman at the center of the storm is Amara, calm, poised, her quiet eyes taking in the opulent cruelty of the room. And approaching her now, with a smile that doesn't reach his cold eyes, is Marcus, the manager. His suit costs more than most people's rent, and his arrogance is his favorite accessory. Amara requested a table. Marcus doesn't even check the computer. He just looks her up and down, a slow, deliberate inspection that makes the surrounding chatter die down. "I'm sorry," he says, not sounding sorry at all. "Our dress code is rather strict, and even if it weren't, we are fully committed for the evening." A lie. Amara had watched a couple walk in just moments before and be seated. Her voice is even, low. "I have a reservation. Under Jones." Marcus lets out a soft, condescending chuckle that carries through the quiet room. "I'm sure you do," he says, louder now, playing to his audience of wealthy diners. "But people of your particular background often find our atmosphere a bit too refined. You'd be much more comfortable elsewhere. Perhaps a place that doesn't require reservations." The final insult is delivered with a dismissive wave of his hand. Amara doesn't flinch. She doesn't argue. She simply holds his gaze for a moment longer, letting him drown in his own superiority. Then, with a stillness that is more powerful than any outburst, she turns. Every set of eyes in the restaurant follows her as she walks back across the marble floor, past the smirking hostess, and through the glass doors, leaving the sound of clinking silverware and murmured gossip behind. Marcus straightens his tie, believing he has won. He has no idea he has just lit a fuse that will detonate his entire world. Amara is a young black woman with a calm, commanding presence. Her skin is a rich, dark brown, and her face under the ambient city light is a mask of serene composure, utterly unreadable. Her expression is focused and determined, her eyes sharp and observant, reflecting the cold glow of her phone screen. She is dressed simply in a plain black t-shirt and jeans, her attire contrasting with the opulent facade of the restaurant she is facing. In this moment, her stillness and her dark, intense gaze are the most prominent features, conveying not defeat, but the initiation of a calculated, powerful response. The glass doors of La Prétense hissed shut, sealing the world of arrogant whispers and judgmental stares inside. But out here, on the sidewalk, there was no anger, no tears, no shattered pride. There was only a profound, chilling silence. Amara stood perfectly still for a moment, the cool evening air a sharp contrast to the stifling atmosphere she had just left. And then, with a slow, deliberate movement that spoke of absolute control, she reached into her pocket. Her face was a mask of serene composure, utterly unreadable. This was not the face of someone who had been defeated. This was the face of someone initiating a sequence of absolute consequences. And right now, as this quiet storm begins to gather, I have to ask you, are you with her? Now back to the calm before the storm. Amara lifted her phone, the screen illuminating her determined eyes. A single tap, and the call connected. Her voice was low, steady, and devoid of any emotion. It was pure, unadulterated protocol. "Nia," she began, her words crisp and clear. "Pull the documents for the Horizon Galleria commercial complex. Locate the lease agreement for the tenant, La Prétense. I want the full termination package prepared and ready for immediate execution." There was a pause as she listened, her gaze fixed on the restaurant's opulent facade. "Yes, I have conclusive evidence of a material breach. I'm sending you the video confirmation now. The incident is time-stamped and logged." She ended the call without another word. her fingers dancing across the screen to transmit the damning footage. Meanwhile, inside the restaurant, Marcus was holding court, reliving his victory. He leaned against the mahogany bar, swirling a glass of amber liquid, a smug smile playing on his lips as he regaled a wealthy regular with a sanitized version of events. "Oh, you know how it is," he said with a dismissive wave. "One must maintain standards. We simply can't have the ambience compromised for our valued guests." He was so utterly, tragically unaware. He thought the story was over, that he was the victor in his little kingdom of crystal and linen. He didn't know that the ground beneath his feet was already crumbling, that with that one quiet phone call Amara had just set an irreversible clock in motion. The countdown had begun. The comfortable hum of La Prétense was abruptly sliced by the sound of the heavy oak door swinging open once more. And there she was. Amara. Backlit by the city lights, she stood in the doorway, but she was not alone. Flanking her were two figures who radiated pure, unadulterated authority. To her right, a woman with a severe bun and a sharp black suit carried a leather-bound portfolio, her expression unyielding. To her left, a man in an impeccably tailored overcoat, David Chen, the head of asset management for the entire Galleria, a man Marcus had only ever seen in industry magazines. For a split second, the entire restaurant froze, forks suspended in midair. Marcus, his mask of charm instantly back in place, began his approach, a condescending smile already forming. He didn't get to speak. Amara's voice cut through the silence, not loud, not shrill, but with the sharp, clean finality of a guillotine. She didn't need to raise it. The entire room was holding its breath. "Let me remind you of your words, manager," she said, her eyes locked on his. "You told me people of my background would be more comfortable elsewhere. You said this atmosphere was too refined." Her head tilted slightly. "You were right. This establishment no longer suits me." Marcus blinked, his smile faltering. "I beg your pardon? This is highly inappropriate. You need to leave immediately, or I will call security." It was then that David Chen stepped forward. "I'm afraid it is you who will be leaving, Mr. Vance. This property is owned by Carter Holdings. And this," he gestured to Amara with the utmost respect, "is Ms. Amara Carter, the majority shareholder and CEO." The blood drained from Marcus's face so completely he looked like a ghost. The woman with the bun, Ms. Jacobs, opened her portfolio. "Per Clause 7B of your lease, engaging in discriminatory conduct constitutes a material breach. We are terminating your lease, effective immediately." She slapped the formal notice against his chest as he was too stunned to lift his hands. David Chen already had his phone out. "Security team to La Prétense. Begin the lockdown and asset verification process." Every patron in the room was now openly staring, phones discreetly recording. The smirk was gone from Marcus's face, replaced by a twitching, ashen mask of pure, undiluted panic. He looked at Amara, the woman in the simple t-shirt, now the absolute ruler of his destiny, and the horror in his eyes was the most satisfying sight in the world. A stunned silence had fallen over La Prétense, broken only by the quiet, efficient voices of security and the shocked whispers of the guests. Marcus stood paralyzed, the termination notice clutched in his trembling hand, a monument to his own hubris. But Amara was no longer looking at him. He was already part of the past, a problem already solved. Instead, she turned her gaze to the true heart of the room, the diners frozen mid-meal and the staff who watched with a mixture of fear and anticipation. She took a single step forward and every eye followed her. Her voice when she spoke was clear, firm, but carried a new warmth, a tone of genuine apology and resolve. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, addressing them not as a crowd, but as honored guests in her home. "I must sincerely apologize that your evening was interrupted and soured by such unacceptable behavior. What you witnessed was a failure of basic human decency, and for that, on behalf of this building's ownership, I am truly sorry." The tension in the room broke, replaced by a wave of murmured understanding. A few people even nodded. "But this," she continued, her voice gaining a visionary strength, "is not the end. This location will not remain empty. In this very space we will be opening a new establishment. One that believes true luxury isn't about who you exclude, but about how you make people feel. It will be a place called the Common Table, where excellence in food and service is matched only by its commitment to being open, accessible, and welcoming to everyone. And if you are enjoying this moment of justice, this reclaiming of power, then tell me right now, where in the world are you watching from? Let's build a community in the comments of people who believe in this very ideal. And if you want to see more stories where the underdog rises and toxic systems fall, your support means everything. Hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. It truly helps. Then, Amara's eyes swept across the faces of the waiters, the busboys, the line cooks who had peeked out from the kitchen. She sought out those who had looked uncomfortable with Marcus's bigotry, but had been powerless to stop it. And to you, the dedicated staff whose hard work was overshadowed by poor leadership, I extend an offer. When the Common Table opens, your jobs will be waiting for you, with improved conditions and a promise that your dignity will be respected. This is not the end of your employment here. It is a new beginning. With those words, she had not just fired a bad manager. She had won the loyalty of an entire team and mended the relationship with the community. Her work here was done. She didn't wait for applause or further questions. She simply turned, and with David and Ms. Jacobs following her lead, she walked out of the restaurant for the final time. On the sidewalk, she paused, looking up at the gleaming facade of her building, the neon sign of Prétense already seeming like a relic of a bygone era. There was no smile of vengeance on her face, only a quiet, profound satisfaction. The toxicity had been surgically removed. The system hadn't been shouted down, it had been quietly, absolutely, and correctly realigned. Power, true power, isn't about volume. It's about vision. And as she disappeared into the night, she left behind a blueprint for change, proving that the most powerful revolutions often happen without a single raised voice. So what would you have done in her shoes? And more importantly, where will you be when the next story drops? Let us know below.